I always tell people to start to remember that it's called social media for a reason, and we are on social media to be social and really get people to, get to know you and remember that conversations are the starters of all sales.
Wondering what it takes to succeed in business? Welcome to the Hustle Podcast, where we share genuine stories of success and failure to guide you on your journey to achieving your goals. All right, guys, I'm super excited because we are actually in Dallas, Texas, at a real estate conference that I've been attending for 6 to 7 years called Tom Ferry. A lot of people know Tom Ferry. And I was like, I kind of want to bring in some of the agents that I work with on a day-to-day basis or even a month-to-month basis, just in connecting with business and just kind of talk to them about their entrepreneur journey, what are they doing in their market and investment. So for the next 5 episodes or so, we are actually breaking down some of my core people that I have connected with. And we're starting with Kate Neway, who is in Chicago. I've never been to Chicago, but Kate has been somebody who's been in my actual coaching group who has had just a really marketing genius background in social media and growing her business. And we will touch on it, but it sounds like you just bought your first flip, which is going to be super cool to hear. So why don't you give them a little bit of your background, born, raised, Chicago, or all those details so that we can kind of start diving into how we can help these people that are listening to our podcast grow and, in their journey.
Let's do it. Thanks for having me, Faith. Here we go. So my name is Kate Neway, better known as the Hat and Heels Realtor on Instagram. And I'm born and raised in the Chicagoland area. I met my husband, my also business partner now, in kindergarten. And we're now serving and running our business in the same area that we grew up in. Nice. So we are super excited to be growing our real estate business. My husband got into real estate before I did. I actually started off as his assistant. COVID happened and I was in the fitness industry for almost 2 decades. I had just closed my last gym. I was just teaching fitness classes and, the world shut down but real estate was able to, keep going. Yeah. So I was able to help my husband, again, starting off as his assistant. Now I'm his boss. I'm the team lead. I'm like, let's build an empire. Let's go.
Was it like a Rochambeau of reversal roles or was it?
It was a fun, organic growth into what we wanted to build together. So he started off on a team. So that was a really great opportunity for us to learn not only how to build a team, how to work a team, but also what not to do. And also what didn't work for us and how we didn't want to lead people. So it was just a really great learning experience both ways on both sides of the spectrum, how we could build and create something totally different and unique in the Chicagoland area. So we started the Live Chicago team, and it started out, again, just Dan and I. I got my license, got into Tom Ferry coaching right away.
Here we are.
Having all this experience in fitness, I wanted to take all those skills and apply it to the real estate industry. So everything I learned in the fitness industry, I now am applying into real estate. Dan and I are so fortunate now to have multiple streams of revenue in our real estate business, not limited to just, selling houses, buying houses, helping investors, but also, as you said, we have purchased our first flip, which I have so many thoughts about, and we're trying to really think how we can frame this in our community as how can we restore and rebuild these original mid-century modern and historic homes, because the suburb that Dan and I were born and raised in is called LaGrange. It's about 13 miles due west of the Sears Tower. Okay. Sorry if people still call it the Willis Tower. I'm old school. Call it Sears Tower.
You could call it whatever you want, and I'd be like, that's great.
Yeah. So Sears Tower, 13 miles due west, and established in the 1800s. Wow. So my husband Dan actually sits on the board of the Historical Society, and we are fortunate to see a lot of historic homes in the area, but a lot of these 1800 homes people are wanting to knock down, build new construction. These beautiful mid-century modern homes, whether they be split levels or ranches, builders are coming in. The schools are so great. People are flocking from the city to the suburbs. So we're seeing a lot of these houses being torn down, Faith. And it was so important for Dan and I to just hey, let's make this a whole part of our real estate business and let's start restoring these homes in our community that we just love so much. And the character and the charm of this suburb is what makes it so different than the concrete jungle of the city.
Totally. So before unraveling your flipping and your first investment, for social media, for people that obviously don't follow you after this podcast, they'll probably go check you out. You've been kind of in a growth journey of really helping, others understand social media in their business. And I think it's also been a huge part of your growth to real estate. So I do meet a lot of people that will listen to our podcast. They're kind of in that entrepreneur, and it's just like, how do I implement social media into like something that can help propel my business? And I think on a grand level of, advice, what is like your main advice in your social media world that you tell people, whether it's real estate, whether it's like you own a fitness or you finances, how do you like incorporate social media best to then, I don't know, almost create a better product or a better, business or industry that you're in? So where do you kind of tell people to start with the social media part?
I always tell people to start to remember that it's called social media for a reason, and we are on social media to be social. Mm-hmm. It's not just a showcase of, hey, look at me. Here's my amazing life. Here's all the cool houses I've sold. Here's my numbers. I'm so amazing. Try to stay away from that and really get people to get to know you and remember that conversations are the starters of all sales, right? Yeah. So, not just posting the just sold, but also posting those moments in your life that you feel comfortable sharing. Having boundaries is super important on social media. There's so many safety tips I could go into, right? But just to get to the meat and potatoes of the entrepreneurs that are listening and wanting to get started on social, the biggest thing is be who you truly are. Don't try to be somebody else. The biggest piece of advice I got from Glenda Baker, who became a, national, international sensation with her voice and her videos, was she was actually trying to be Zachary Faust. And when she was doing that, the videos weren't hitting. Nobody was relaying a guy from Delaware to a woman, in Georgia. So there was a disconnect in her trying to make content like him. Yeah. So it's important to find someone that you want to emulate and you aspire to be, right? But then putting your own flavor on it. So like if you have the chicken, I'm going to put my own spices on it. Or let's say you fry your chicken. Well, I'm going to pan fry mine and then bake it. So doing things a little bit different, putting your own flavor on it and just being yourself. I know that sounds so cliche, but that's what's going to resonate with people. That's what's going to get them to connect with you in the conversations.
Which is where hats and heels came in. So you should probably break that down.
Yeah. So hat and heels came in for a bunch of reasons, but the biggest thing was I never saw myself as the picture perfect, like I'm going to show up in high heels and curl my hair every day. That's not me. I shared with you, I owned gyms for almost 2 decades. Yeah. So I was always finding myself going from work to the gym and, back and forth. And then finally the two just merged and blended. And I just find it's the beautiful duality of like the masculine and the feminine, the like sporty spice meets posh spice, right? Yeah. That fusion of, hey, this is my personality. It's a blend, right? I'm not your specific mold. Don't put me in a box. I'm going to be real with you. And I'm going to be real with you on this whole spectrum of, A to Z. And that's me. And take it or leave it. And the cool part is the people that want to work with you, are going to be attracted to you. So your social media now becomes a magnet rather than I have to go fishing. It's like, no, you set a net and the fish come. Like you, instead of having to go around and light all these matches, you are the lighthouse and you are attracting people to you. So on social media, the last tip I would advise people is the conversations not only start from the content you're creating, but interact with the people that are following you. If you don't have a lot of followers, go follow local businesses. Every time you meet someone, hey, let's connect on Instagram. Oh, I'm not that active on Instagram. Oh, that's okay. Like, do you ever post your cat or your dog or your kids? Like, I'd love to connect with you.
No life. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's the best part, Faith, too. Interacting from the stories, the biggest, business and connections I'll get is from the DMs from stories. So I'll actually watch people's stories. If it's their kid's first day of school, you bet I'm commenting on that. If they're reading a book, you best believe I'm going to say, oh my gosh, what'd you think of that?
Totally.
Like, should I add that to my list? Is it a must read or?
It's like the personal touch for sure.
It's the personal touch. And it's just having conversations. It's just being yourself. And people think they have to sell, but you really just have to be yourself, and it's going to come to you, and you just have to trust the process and be patient.
Yeah. It's definitely like building the personal brand based off of, like for anybody listening, whatever your business is, it's like you can take something so simple as like your everyday life, tell that story, then people feel connected, authentic to, hey, for us, Faith has a banana tree and I'm just like follow her for her banana tree or for her dogs or whatever.
Yes.
And, it could be the same thing with you. It's just like, I could care less about, real estate, but the fact that now you're going to be documenting your first flip, and the mid-century, the struggles of that, it's like, just finding the relatability of like that's where you almost have to like throw out a web and see like what attracts people to want to like continue to engage with you, and vice versa. Like you have to work the audience too.
Yeah.
So getting into your flip, this is your first flip. Good luck. No, I'm just kidding. We've done a couple of flips. So restoring, an 1800 house, mid-century, back to mid-century modern. How much did you buy for? How much are you hoping? I don't know if you all can share that details yet, but how much are you hoping for? And do you feel like you have any idea of what you're doing?
So it's funny you say that. Dan and I have been, my husband, Dan, we've been dreaming about doing our first flip for years. And I remember very clearly we were sitting, we were watching HGTV, one of those shows about flipping houses. I won't say which one, but we do have a favorite couple that we like to watch flip houses. And we kind of look at each other and just joke and be like, that would be so fun to do this. Yeah. And, not be on a show or anything, but it'd just be so fun to flip a house together. And we look at each other, as husband and wife, do we think we can do it? Well, absolutely. It's just another extension of our business. Yeah. So when this opportunity, came, it was an off-market deal. We were able to get the listing off market. They were going to list it for $40,000 over what we ended up purchasing it for. So we got it for a great deal. So in LaGrange, where we're at, there's a ton of 1800s historic homes, but this one was built in the 1950s. So it has the structure of your classic mid-century modern. I mean, the bathroom tile, the bathroom tile is like yellow. It is vintage.
Are you going to keep it?
Good question. I think we are going to replace it, okay, but we're going to keep the colorways and color palette throughout the house. We'll bring it back. So how big is it? It is about 1,300 square feet. It's a split level house. It's 3-bed, 2-bath. What I'm really excited though is I have a professional garden landscaper who builds these luxury backyard landscapes, and she's going to help us really take that mid-century modern design, not only in the interior home, but take that extension to the exterior of the home. So we're going to be using, keep it consistent, keep it true mid-century modern, gardening, which is just it's low maintenance. It's clean lines. It's tall grasses. It's Zen rock, not mulch. So really just, I'm really excited actually to bring that outside too. I think that'll be really fun.
That is so exciting. We've done a couple flips. It's always costs more than you think. That's always what I always tell people. It always costs more than you think. But it is so exciting to like take your creative, like you're just such a creative person, and then just put your spin on it with like, house and like design and style and whatnot. So how long are you hoping to complete the project so that you can relist it?
Yeah. So
hopefully you don't fall in love with it and want to keep it, because that did happen to us.
I know. No, we are dead set on selling this.
She is dead set on selling it.
We are. For the record. So we were hoping to close on this property in June. So right now we're filming this podcast. It's the end of August, right? Yeah. So we had a 2-month escrow, which was longer than we wanted. But again, I am stubborn. I was not going to let this deal fall through. Negotiating is the name of our game. So we kept the deal together, and here we are. It did take a little bit of give and take. We had negotiated about $8,500 in credit. And we had some issues with the loan, which again, I'm happy to give some tips to first-time flippers. The things we've learned just in this escrow process.
What's your number one tip?
The number one tip is speak to multiple lenders. I thought speaking to 2 or 3 was enough. I think for my first time, I should have shopped about 5 to 7.
And what were you specifically looking for?
Specifically looking for the amount down, because as a first-time flipper, if you're not aware, you will probably have to put more down than someone who's done this a bunch of times. In fact, when you talk to a loan officer and say, hey, I want a hard money loan, private money loan, or whatever you're getting, or even just your basic loan, not private money, you have to put 20, 25, 30% down. And that spread is a big difference when you're talking about a house that's almost $500,000. Yeah. So that difference of the 20 to 25% down was just huge. One lender said they could do it. They weren't able to end up going through the deal with us. We had to switch lenders midway through escrow. So I think the biggest tip would be shop multiple lenders, ask all the questions. They're going to interview you too. They'll ask you, have you ever done a flip? And you have to be honest and say no, because if you say yes, but great, what's the property address? When did it say? What's the ARV? Or when did it sell? What's the ARV?
Like, I have no information.
I have no information about that. So they don't care that you've renovated your house. They want to know, have you done a flip?
Are you an investor?
Yes, exactly. So it's the catch-22 of like, you need experience, but you have to get your first one under your belt.
Right.
So the goal is, or the tip I would give people is shop multiple lenders and make sure that they can actually see it through with you to the end. Yeah. Apparently Chicago is a riskier market. So that's why the lender dropped us. They just couldn't find anybody that would take us on as first-time flippers.
So when are you hoping to, so it took 2 months to close the property. When are you hoping to be done basically with it renovated on the market?
Yeah. Hopefully we can get it done in 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
But again, we know things happen. So I'm projecting 4 to 5 months.
That's a good bounce. Yeah.
If we have to list in January, we'll list in January. Yeah. That's how confident I am in this location, in the design, and the contractors.
Does the house have a name yet?
Does the house have a name? It's got to have mid-century, like MCM, mid-century modern in it. So maybe like MCM Molly or Maddie or Millie. Ooh, kind of like MCM Millie.
See, you're welcome.
Here we go. Thank you. What did you name your first flip?
Oh, I was just like, please sell. No.
Please sell. Well, I will keep you posted on how MCM Millie is going.
So before we wrap up, you're obviously in the Chicago market. Give us a highlight really quick for somebody who's listening, maybe thinking about, I'm obviously in Northern California, so tippy top, Redding. I was just debating with another realtor if it's PNW or not. And I'm like, no, it's not PNW. But so for Chicago and everything, who typically are you seeing move into Chicago? What's your average price point? Kind of just not what you sell, but just like the general average price point there. And why should somebody consider moving to Chicago? It's a 3-punch question.
Yeah, I love it. So we're seeing a lot of people coming in from Texas. We're seeing a lot of people coming in from Kansas and Missouri. We also get a lot of influx from Oregon, which is really random.
That is really random.
But I've had 3 referrals just from Oregon alone in the past year. So that's been a state that has been a feeder market for us. The types of people we're seeing moving here are people that are moving for work, and they're only going to go into the office once a week. So they want to have access to the city, but they want the suburb living. They want that blend of the urban suburban lifestyle. So for those reasons, we kind of do a matchmaking questionnaire on, hey, based on your lifestyle, do you want to be able to, walk to the coffee shop? Do you want to be able to, travel less than a mile to the grocery store, right? So we ask all these qualifying questions. And then based on their answers, we don't, of course, we never steer them to any specific area, but hey, because of the fact that you said you love being able to roll out of bed and like walk to the coffee shop, maybe checking out areas like this or like this, then we kind of narrow it down from there. So just a lot of, new couples or people looking to build their family. And price point is anywhere from, a 3-bed, 2-bath will run you anywhere from $500,000 to $700,000 in the suburbs with top school districts. But you can also have up to $10 million homes. So the spread is just absolutely huge in those affluent suburbs. Yeah. It's wild. The spread is crazy.
And if somebody's moving to Chicago, I've never been to Chicago, so just bear with me.
Yeah.
Besides family, people looking for a change, what's like the number one thing, like if you go to Chicago, like you have to check out?
Yeah. Are you coming in the winter or the summer?
Oh, good question. Which is it better? Summer?
Yeah, come in the summer.
Okay.
Chicago is one of those rare locations where it seems like you're on a beach because it seems like you're at the ocean, because the beaches in Chicago overlooking Lake Michigan, when you peer out and you look, there's no land in sight. So it feels like Lake Michigan's actually an ocean. It's wild. But then you look behind you and you have all these beautiful skyscrapers.
Yeah.
So it's actually a really cool vibe to be at the beach downtown Chicago because it feels like you're in Florida or on the coast. It's great.
That's awesome. Okay, so the summer life of Chicago.
Yeah, it's bumping. We have a trail called Lakeshore Drive. People run, bike. There's volleyball. Awesome. It's just so fun. Yeah.
So if people were to find you on social media, Hats and Heels Realtor.
Hat and Heels Realtor.
Hat and Heels Realtor.
Yes.
And then anywhere else you would love for them to find you, or mainly on Instagram?
They can find me on Instagram, or they can go to my website, KateNewey, NEWEY.com.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Hustle Podcast. And we're in Texas. And so thanks so much for being the first handful of realtors that we're going through. So
thanks, Faith.